as if maybe you have,
Oh,
as if you are flipping a paper.
okay.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So we're going to clear training for enthusiasts. Today we are going to have fun. We're going to be discussing Docker. We're just going to be playing around Docker, like just to have a very underground. There's a course we did yesterday, which is going to slide as you're watching this video, so you can click it if you have not gone through that course, because this is going to build upon that course. And yesterday we just we talked about the underlying infrastructure that Docker is building, and that Docker is a platform as a service. And because most times when you are using Docker, when Docker is being released to you, the person that give you the Docker application would have set up the underlying network and other system and storage for you to use. So all you just need to do is just to use it. So when the Docker is installed in your application, you are using Docker, you're not using it from the infrastructure level, you are using it under the platform, because you have to install a VM, operating system, and that type of operating system will determine the Docker demo you're going to put in your system. If it's Windows, you put Windows Docker. If it's Linux, put Linux Docker. And when you put in Linux Docker, so your application will now be resting on that Docker demo. So and which will help you to optimize your application deployment, because instead of deploying 700 megabytes of an ROPM application, you just deploy only the application, because the Docker is going to handle the underlying infrastructure. So you can deploy 300 applications running in one Docker demo. You understand me? And you expose those applications through your port, because Docker is not really like a regular application. It's a part of system software, because it uses all your system, including your network system, your storage, and your underlying resources. So that is what we established yesterday. And we run a simple Docker script where we use the Docker that we run yesterday was actually from already built Docker image. Like you see this script, Docker run name. My Nginx was the Docker, the name we want to call our own Docker application. So we run the already built Docker image. Yesterday we couldn't get Docker Nginx 10, all right? So there's no need of putting it here. So we just run the Nginx latest, because when you don't see anything Nginx something at the front, it means it's using the word latest. Understand? So this image has already been built. This image has already been built, so we are just pulling it from Docker Hub. So if we are not using Docker Hub, what we would have used is the URL of where our image is being saved. Maybe that Docker Hub URL, or either public Docker Hub URL, or our ECRO or GCRO or JFrog, you understand, where our artifact is residing. Currently, we are using an artifact that is in GitHub, which is an open source. So that is why we just run the Docker, pull the image, and bind it to our port. This first one talks about our own local port. This talks about the port, the default port of the Docker application, which in this case, we're using port 80 for Nginx. So today we are just going to, and yesterday we also run another one, and we use WordPress to understand, because why do we do that was because we wanted to build a single UI and a 3-tier architecture. WordPress is almost similar to 3-tier application because it has the UI, you have the database, also have some backend, which is mostly known as your plugins that you're going to be putting. So we call this WordPress. So you don't need to have anything. If you have your Docker running, you can try this line. By the time you go to your local host at 80, you're going to see Nginx, which is similar to this. I think we still have our Nginx running. Let's just come here. This is what you're going to see. This is an Nginx, and this one is running at port 80. Then if you open port 83, I think it was port 83, you're going to see another application running, say localhost 86. Okay, we used 86 yesterday. So good. So with this, I can decide to run multiple WordPress application pods, and I expose it to different pods, which means I can have 20 WordPress running here and 20 Nginx running at different parts of my host. So that was what we were able to establish yesterday. So today we are going a bit deeper because we want to really understand how do this Docker, how is it being built, you know, from just using the regular local host. So can we have more interesting infrastructure? Let me just open a new stuff so that we can have a may have a mistake. Let me just drag this here and drag it here. And today we are just going to build. I want to build the same WordPress, but this time we are using another Docker tool called Compose. Because when we run our Docker yesterday, our Docker WordPress yesterday, it was actually running. We had our port 80 running, our port 83 running, right? But under that port 83, we had some, the WordPress was not complete because this is just the WordPress UI. So it was asking us to put our database and get our database running. Because we are not running database, we just run only Docker, only the VM. So we're having this issue because we don't even know that WordPress default. I think sometimes we can just put WordPress. Let's try if it works. WordPress. Because what we used was default WordPress, right? May work, it may not work, right? WordPress. So we'll do that. Then let's see if it works. No, it didn't work. It was not established because there's no database running in our local system. There's no database container running. So what we are going to do, we are going to use a compose file which carries database, SQL. You can see this compose file. A compose file is, data compose is like an automated script that help you to connect different containers together. Maybe if you have 5 containers and those containers, for them to work, you have to put them, you have to connect them, link them together. So you use a compose file to give instruction to Docker to say this and this, link this. For example, if you look at this compose file, talking about the services that, first of all, your Docker MariaDB, this is an image that you should pull this image and pull it in your local system and run this command. Then pull the database. Yes, that means pull the database. You create a volume like a hard drive for the MySQL because it's always best practice to keep a hard drive for a volume, to keep a volume, like to always attach a volume, which is almost like a hard drive, a virtual hard drive for that container to run, so that in case the Docker dies, another Docker is being spin up. The Docker will just, instead of losing the old data, the Docker will just connect to the storage, are you getting me, and consume the data that was there before. That's the reason why it's best to put a volume. That is why you get a volume. Now, this is the process, is restart always. So within time to just be restarting, especially when you are putting a new image, so it will restart and update and restart and update. This will happen in a very micro minutes. You can actually set up something, a cron job on how you restart and everything will happen. But now we're not doing that for now. Then the database, this is the environment variables. This is where you give the database name, password, and they will pass the user, because this MariaDB is actually like a managed DB that you can create. It's a host, right? Or you can create different database inside the DB. So MariaDB is just like a machine that you can have so many databases in it. So MariaDB will be running in one place. So for that, you are going to be creating database inside. So this is a database that will be created. This is the username and the password. This is the port that's going to be exposed. This first one, 3306 and 33060. These are the database of the port of the database here. So with this port, our Nginx, our MariaDB, our WordPress can communicate, because the WordPress is already configured to use this database at this port. So this is what we're going to run. So it's just a simple walkthrough. But after this, we're going to build. I want to tell you what a Docker file is and how it's being used to build. So we're going to try and build that same WordPress. So by the time, what you just need to do, just come here and just clone. Just come here and clone. Oh, sorry. Come here and clone. I think you copy parts. That's our. If I'm still using Docker, let's create a folder. Let's call it WordPress. Then under this WordPress, we'll create a folder. Call it Docker Compose. Thing.yaml. Then this Docker Compose. Let's open the integrated terminal here, and this is the integrated terminal. This is where our Docker Compose file is. Then just come here and just copy. You can see it's compose.yaml, right? YAML. So just come here, copy, and paste. Sorry, and paste. You can see. So the services is up, the syntax is okay, and you save. Now we have some issues if we run this, because there's already a Docker running in that port. So let's keep our port closed. Let's shut down all our Docker file that we run yesterday. These are the Docker containers that are running right now. So let's shut them down. You'll say Docker container stop. And the name of the Docker, this one, this WordPress. This is the container ID to stop. What did you say? Oh, sorry. I spelled my container correctly. Didn't spell it well. So, or the error. So if you can see, it shows that it has stopped. They have to remove it. Remove RM, normal line of script is out. Now let's stop the second one. Let's keep our system clean. Let's sanitize. Stop, then let's remove it. Removed. Now let's what NS again? Do we have on that container? How many containers do we have running? 3. 1, 2, 3. Well, I don't want to have any error. I'm just trying to avoid, because sometimes it can be annoying, you know. Just stop. No, it will not remove, because what did he say? See, there's no such container. So to make it clear, you say Docker PS. You can see we still have Docker PS. And we still have one container running. So let's stop this container. Stop first, and the name of the container. Then you remove it. Now, my system is supposed to, it will look as if my system is clean, right? But let me be sure if it's actually clean. -A, supposed to see, I still have one container. Despite it's not running, but Ross is there. So I need to stop that too. I just want to keep my system clean. Stop. Because Docker, it should have a defined port and a defined name. So to avoid having this error, now I should have my system clean. Docker ps -a is clean. Okay, good. So now I'll just run Docker compose up. Let's follow the instructions so that we'll have clean. Sorry. The instruction says, if you look at the README full file, which is here, this is the README file. We've created this, right? Then it said the deploy will just run Docker compose -t up. Then okay. Now let's have it. Go to your stuff, to V, no. ls, make sure that you are in where the file is. Let's rename, move Docker to Docker, or you can call it compose, the same thing. It doesn't matter. As far, I just want us to use this YAML, but good, I've renamed it. We already know that script, that's irregular. Do you want to open CloudShare? No, we don't. So let's build it. You're saying Docker compose -d up. Let's copy it. You see, first of all, pull the DB. That's the database that you see there. You see it's running 12, it's running 14th. It's pulling the DB, pull the DB, pull the code. Now it's running it, is creating it, is starting the container, and it started. So now let's go to my environment and see my port 80. See what is going on there. Any browser, it's not compulsory you use Mozilla, just any browser, but let's work in the same environment. If I time I go to localhost port 80, should have my WordPress up. Okay, now this WordPress, you can see is different from the first WordPress that we ran yesterday. This one is already binding, the database is there, everything is there. So I just create my WordPress as I want it. This is the password. I can call it Cloud Training for Enthusiasts, FEB, right? Then username, Cloud Training for Enthusiasts, FEB, right? Then this is the password. I can decide to save this password, but it's my password manager that generates it for me. So I'm very sure that at least it's going to keep a copy for me. I'll just put my email here. You'll say, or let me just put this popig2001@gmail.com. Then search engine visibility. Well, it's not compulsory. Okay, to test. When I do this, my password is open, I log in. What's my username again? My username is Cloud Training for Enthusiasts, right?
Yeah, CTFE
FEB. And my password was what this guy suggested for me now. Why are you not giving me my password now? Can you imagine what this guy is doing to me? Look at what he did to me right now.
You do remember.
I have it on my system. Why is it not here? It's supposed to have my database here. Oh, that's a mistake on my part. It's not going to open. I didn't copy the password. Come on. Okay. So for that reason, I'm going to start afresh.
Don't know why it's going on. No, there's lost your password underneath now.
Okay, forget my password. Let's see what will happen. So I should put my email. Let's put our email and see what will happen here. So I always recommend you use password manager. I don't know why my password manager did not function now. So normally it's supposed to give you enter the username and the address. Say error, the email could not be sent. Why? Your site may not have correct configuration. Go to support, reset password, repeatable. So you can see what one mistake can cost you, because you have the opportunity to save your password. You didn't save it. Now it's telling you you're on your own. But good news, I'm in. Well, how it happened, I don't know. But I think this is just a first sample site, right? So this site is just a sample site. This is normal WordPress sample site, but I cannot edit. I'm supposed to be able to edit because this is normal sample site. You understand? So normally I'm supposed to be able to, but for me to log into my WordPress, you now put your local host, but 80, then is it slash now? Slash WP admin. Supposed to take me to my WordPress username and password. Now let me put my password here. If I put my username, so this is my email. But unfortunately, password did not show me.
No stop password again.
So that is what password managers sometimes can do for you if you rely on it totally. So normally you're supposed to keep your password somewhere and run it. But it's running. That is one thing you just have to know. So what should we do? Okay, the other way you can do it, right? There's a place where you can get your password. There's a place you can get your password, because WordPress is actually a regular application. So you can also actually log into your Docker. You understand me? If you say Docker, okay, let me say Docker, Docker PS. This is my Docker. This is the WordPress running. It's running at port 80. This is my endpoint. This is my MariaDB. This is the port. So let's do something. Let's try and stop this Docker. Docker container stop this. I'm gonna stop now. Let me remove it. RM. Now let me stop the second one. I think this time, but the challenge is that there is already a drive inside my system. There's a drive. That drive is what the Docker is going to continue to use. But let's not talk that. Let's say Docker container. Let me just what I use before instead of repeating every time. Just port Ctrl V. Stopped. Now let me remove it. Ctrl V. Remove. It has removed. Docker PS. Nothing is running. But if I say Docker PS -A, you're going to see nothing is running. Okay, good. Let's run the compose again. I think if we run the compose again, this time, I think I'll be wise if you give me opportunity. But there are other things you can use to enter the Docker. Now, you can see the time it took this time is different from the time it took the first time. Why? Because the Docker image is already on my system. LS. You can see this is the image for the WordPress. This is the image for my database, MariaDB. So you can only pull image once, right? Because it's latest. It's only when they update the image, you're going to keep pulling. You can ask it to keep pulling. We call it yes, there's a word for it. You just try to keep updating. And I think I'll remember, I'll share it. And even when I'm doing Kubernetes, I'll also share it, where whenever the system, there's a new update, it will automatically update itself. So now let's go to our local host again. So you can run it. You can run it on your own self and try and see what is going on. So you can see. But if you notice, you will not ask, now, Patrick, why is it that your Docker, despite you've restarted, WP admin, you restarted, but it's still not giving you that welcome to lab? Because why? There is a storage. When we are creating this Docker file, we told him where you should create a volume and you should put it in this volume. So Docker is actually using that volume is actually saved there. So anytime you start a new Docker, that volume is going to be consumed. So unless we delete that volume, you understand? That is the only way we'll be able to create another one. Or we can give another volume name here. We can give it another volume name here. Let's say SQL 2. And when we do this, then we have to delete the first one. Let's delete all of them. Say Docker. But if you actually log into the volume, you should be able to see your password. But that's a very long thing. We're not talking about, we're not dealing WordPress today. We're dealing Docker. So let's not confuse. Let's just focus on what we are doing today. But I think we are done. You guys can actually run it yourself. But I just want us to, let's do this. Let's see how we're going to do that. Okay, Docker. So this is how to stop Docker running. This is how to remove it. So you have to, I was expecting somebody to answer me a question. Well, why didn't you just remove it directly? Why do you have to stop it? Nobody asked that question. I will assume you already know, right?
You can't remove a running container. You have to stop it from running first before you can be able to delete it.
Okay, good. Because when you are running a container, it uses your system software, and it's not best to just shut it down like that, because your memory is being used. Container Docker does not have a memory of its own. It's using your memory. So by the time you stop it abruptly like that, you may affect your own system software. But Docker don't want to be held responsible for your actions, so it will just not allow you to make that mistake before you start saying that Docker has spoiled your system. So now I've changed the database data. So now if I run it now, again, it's going to work. I think this time it's going to create another volume, another access point to the volume. Then I think it's going to give me free space to start, opportunity to start afresh. Second chance. Oh boy, give me second chance. So let's see what will happen. Okay, I think at this point, we're going to delete that volume directly. Normally, it's supposed to start afresh. So we're going to delete that volume directly. So that's what we're going to do. But before we do that, you go ahead and run it on your local system. Then when we come back, we're going to delete the volume and get it ready. Then we'll go to the second stage of our class, because we have 2 classes today on how to build it locally. So everybody, go and run it.
So can you script the compose script?
So I've enabled sharing, right? You said the what?
The compose script, the Docker compose script.
Okay,
can you share it?
I will share the URL of that open source to you, so that you won't be the one that spoiled your system.
I'll carry and call Canada.
And they know how we did. At least the flight is going to take you to come here, but then you calculate the cost. And according to that musician that said went to abroad to charge his phone, I don't know how possible, but Guys, the guy is really good. You know, for you to have traveled all this way to Europe to charge your phone, that's a very impressive skill. Okay, please run it. It's a simple, just simple step. So congratulations. So you all ran successfully. So just please give or copy that password. Copy it and keep. That's the default password. With an email. But it seems like that password is a general default password, right? Send the password to me.
Okay.
Let me see if I use it, if it will work. Okay. Now your own has worked, right? So now let's move to the next stage. So I'm going to share this link with you now. This one will talk about storage. Just like the way VM also have storage, like a block storage. Same Docker also have storage. So you can decide to use different storage. It has file storage, it has block storage, the same way. You understand? Just like this particular one we used was actually block storage. Now let's see why that database. Have you shared it? Just share the
Yeah, I'm about to.
Let me try and attempt again. Then
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Voila.
It's work, right? WP admin support. Okay. Localhost. 80.
Discourage search engines from indexing these sites.
Yes, you can do that. You can disable it. Okay, didn't work.
It worked, right?
It didn't work. Okay, now let's come to mine. Have you done? Let me share screen. Congratulations, your sister is up, and as expected, and Keep the password. Now let's go into, this is my work now. So to list all database volume, just the way you also list container, Docker container, Docker image, the same way you also do for volume, Docker volume. So Docker volume, we list all the volume that you have. -L, Docker volume, ls, we list all the volume. These are the volumes that I have. This is the one we created just now, WordPress data. If I delete this volume, which I have to do by first of all stopping the VM. Well, let's see if we can delete it. Say Docker volume, remove, Docker volume, remove this. What happened?
Are you sharing your screen?
Can you see it? Can you see my screen? It's supposed to be
No.
my screen. My screen is shared.
Okay, let me start sharing.
So
Okay.
can you see my screen now?
Yes.
So to list all the volume, you just use Docker list. These are all the volume that I have. So like this Minikube is in my system. So everything about the data of the Minikube is being saved in like a hard drive. This is the one for WordPress, but I cannot delete this one just like that, just because it's being used by a container that is still running. So for me to delete it, I have to remove the container. Docker PS, this is my stuff running. So let me stop the two. So instead of doing one after the other, you can just say Docker stop. I think I can put the first and the second to stop the two at once. Then I remove both of them. By the time I do that, the two have been removed. Now, my volume, let me keep the volume there as my SQL tool. So let me run, oh, sorry, SQL. Now, let me run save ls. Let me run the compose again. By time, if you look at now, I can now conveniently remove the volume, which is the hard drive, the virtual hard drive that I created. If I say Docker volume L, show me all, to show me that my WordPress volume is here. So because it's not being used, I can remove it this time. Volume, remove, ROM, and I think you should be able to remove. Now the volume is not there anymore. So if I run it again this time, the Docker, the Docker will not see anything to relate. So it's going to create a new fresh drive. And this time I can have opportunity to start afresh and configure my system. So if I go to my port 8080 now, but because the volume is no longer there, so it's going to start afresh. I'm going to start afresh. So there's nothing like that. See, you can see it start afresh. You know why it start afresh? Because there is no credentials saved. So I can configure afresh again. So what does that mean? If your file, your Docker is not the best practice, right? But in case you discover you lost your credentials, you can either enter your flash drive, go to that location and pick the username and password and your credentials under your flash drive. I'll show you now. But although that's not supposed to be what we'll be doing now, we're supposed to look at how to build a Docker file. But we'll do that along the way. How to enter the bash, how to enter your bash and your Docker, to enter inside your Docker file and SSH it. We can do that, but just a simple one, we can call it cloud training for enthusiasts this time. Username cloud training for enthusiasts. This is the password. Let's copy and email, let's say OP. Install WordPress, login, cloud training for enthusiasts, password, enter my password. Supposed to enter, save. So I can now look for team, pick up team, browse through team, the appearance, a different type of team that we have. If I activate this team now, you see that my website is going to have a new face because why I have changed the theme. This is not my website. You can see. You can start to edit and work. Now start practicing. For example, if I want to keep practicing my WordPress, I don't want anybody to disturb me. I don't want to affect to be installing. Normally, for you to run WordPress in a regular RPM, you're going to use XAMPP. It's going to take more space, more stuff, but you can avoid it. I can finish building my WordPress like this. After I finish building it, I'll just ship it into my my ECRO. You understand? And it will work. Should we do that? I think no. Let's stop. We'll do that. We'll do that maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. Now let's go to the main major thing. These ones are small, simple thing that everybody can do, right? Let's go to the major thing then, so you can start to look for anyone. You can start to go to public. This is the public. These are default websites. But then if I want to build an LMS, I can come here and just type LMS, Learning Management System. A sample team will come here. These are different learning management system, right? The one they used to build in Udemy. You know that Udemy you see? Most times these are sample Udemy. I can just come here and click this one. So, okay, I like this one. I'll install this one. Installed successfully. Then activate it. Activate. Now get started. Good. Then by the time I go to my website, you see that my WordPress, you can see cloud training for enthusiasts. Have you read? Sample page. So I can start to start designing, be educated so that you can change the world, be educated, help people. I can start to design my website like this. By the time I'm done with my website, I can put it in a VM, then launch it, and everybody will start consuming it, and you start seeing the website. So this is what we use most times to just play around, right? So you can see this thing is running in a Docker. It's running from my Docker container. Is it not light? Is it not portable? Is it not smart? You understand me? And it's not taking too much space in my system. So you can see the power of Docker, right? Huh? You can see the time it took us to install WordPress using Docker and the time it took us to install WordPress using RPM. You know, the times are different, right? The time you take it, because this one is already image built somewhere. You just pull it and use. But if not for that, it would have started picking the file, installing your LAMP, then installing, configuring, you not set it up, get it running. So the time it will take. This one is more agile, more smart. And it can also give you everything you need. You can say, is it not better? So now let's go to the real work of today. The work of today is Docker, how to build a Docker file. So now let's take a sample of that same WordPress. Okay, sorry. Don't go there. Let's come here. Okay, so a Docker is built the same way you build normal thing, just the same, but there's a process you use to build a Docker file. Let's go, for example, say build a WordPress file, WordPress Docker. So you take it to WordPress site directly. WordPress sample. Everybody will come here to do it, so no need of you disturbing yourself, right? everybody comes here to do it. So there will be no need for you to. So if you go to Docker Hub, look at this image that we built. We're using building it. Where is this image? This image here. This is the image we use, right? We go to Docker Hub. I think I have to log in. Log in. The password, my username again. Let me stop sharing. Let me stop recording.